Alright, hey YouTube, Nate here. So as you can see, we have the Verizon iPhone 4. This thing is just a few weeks old, if that, probably not even a few weeks. It's very new, just came out, so here is a review for it. As it is very similar to the AT&T version, I can't really go over too much, but I'm just going to go over some of the differences it does have, and we'll discuss kind of the pros and cons of each. And if you're trying to decide between the two or thinking about switching to Verizon from AT&T, some things you have to consider when doing so. So just very quick, the design of the phone is very similar to the AT&T one. You have the lock button on top, the headphone jack, then you got the silent switch, the volume controls on bottom, the 32-pin connector, and then a speaker and a microphone. Then we got the antennas, which these two are the same as the AT&T one, but this one right here is up here on the AT&T one, but over here on the Verizon one. So what this means is that the silent switch gets moved down slightly. So if you are planning to make the switch between the two phones and you already have a case for an AT&T iPhone, or if you are going to get the Verizon iPhone and you're buying a case from any vendor, you have to either make sure A, it specifically states that it is for the Verizon iPhone, or B, if the case looks like the one that I have here, this was originally for the AT&T iPhone, but as you see, since this whole area is one big cutout, it'll still line up because the up and down volume controls are in exactly the same place. So as long as it is a big cutout like the one I just showed, it'll still line up perfectly. This will just be a little lower than was intended, but it looks just fine. So you won't have a problem if you do get a case that looks like that, but if you have a case that has holes cut out for each separate thing, it's not going to line up and you'll need to get a different one. So make sure that you get a case that's specifically for the Verizon iPhone, or, like I said, has that slit cut out. So other than that, that's the main physical difference in the phone, is just that antenna. One of the things that the antenna is there for is to fix the whole antenna gate, as Apple calls it, issue, or the death grip. I have not experienced the death grip on this phone. I actually do hold my phones with the death grip like this, and no signal is lost in doing so. So that's one pro to this one. For those who don't know, the AT&T iPhone had some antenna issues for a while that a lot of people are complaining about, so Apple had to have this whole bumper program to let everyone get better phones. So that's something to consider. So when it comes to the whole AT&T versus Verizon thing, there is a handful of things to consider. Some of the cons with the Verizon one is I've read that on average the AT&T one is slightly faster when it comes to data speeds because AT&T's network is capable of higher speeds. Now, if you're going to test this with your friend with your Verizon iPhone versus their AT&T one, you might get totally different results, because the truth of the matter is, it really depends on where you are. And the same thing goes for call quality. On average, Verizon technically has a stronger network, it's a bigger network, and has had less dropped calls. Does this mean that you're going to get that same result? No. So it really comes down to where you are. So I definitely search some maps of coverage to take a look at where your area is covered for each network and try to decide which is better. I've had no problems with the Verizon one. It's been just fine. I do get some low signals in areas, and that's to be expected, but most of the time I do have full bars. So like I said, depends on where you are, but I've had no problems with the Verizon one, and I'm sure a lot of people don't have problems with the AT&T one. So when it comes to that, it's really hard to give a clear winner. Like I said, it's really up to where you are. Now, the main difference between the Verizon one, it's pretty big downfall for a lot of people, is the fact that the Verizon iPhone cannot surf the web and talk at the same time. Now, I was going to demonstrate this, but I forgot that I'm on Wi-Fi, so I don't want to really go through all the settings and change it, but if you are on Wi-Fi, you can still go on the internet during a call, because that's just Wi-Fi signal, that's not anything to do with Verizon. But if you are trying to get onto the 3G simultaneously with the voice call, it's not going to work. You will get an error message from Safari that says you can't do this at the same time. So that's probably the biggest downfall, I think, for a lot of people with the Verizon iPhone. The AT&T one, GSM network, can do that just fine. So that's something to consider if you think you're going to be doing a lot of multitasking on the phone and going on the internet. You're definitely going to want to get the AT&T one. Another thing with the AT&T one that does a lot better than the Verizon one is with the CDMA network, it's a lot harder to go travel with it. If you're in places in Europe or Asia, etc., a GSM network like AT&T's is going to be much, much, much better than a CDMA network like Verizon's. Which actually brings up another thing that I forgot to mention. With the design, there is no SIMS card slot on the side because it is a CDMA network. Forgot to mention that before. So yeah, AT&T, if you're going to be traveling a lot, you're probably going to want to go with them because you are going to be more likely to be able to get cell service wherever you are, because Verizon CDMA network does not really cooperate well with other countries. So that about sums up the differences between the two. Each has their pro and con. Actually, that doesn't sum it up, sorry. One more thing about Verizon that might be a pro for some people is two things. One, right now the Verizon iPhone has unlimited data. This is not going to be forever. Verizon is said that they're going to go to a tiered data plan, which is what AT&T has right now, so it'll most likely be 2 gigabytes per month once it goes back down to that, which 2 gigabytes is plenty for most people. So if you are looking for unlimited data for the time being, Verizon is the only one you can do that on. But the last thing I wanted to show was Verizon also has the mobile hotspot feature. For $10 extra a month, I believe, don't quote me on that, it actually might be $15. You can get the mobile hotspot feature, which lets you connect 5 other devices to your iPhone signal. You can connect them either by Bluetooth, by the cable, and you can give them your Wi-Fi or your 3G signal. Now, I can't figure out why someone would want to get on your Wi-Fi signal unless you had a password and they didn't, and you didn't want to give them the password. That's like the only situation I can think about where a device couldn't get on Wi-Fi other than that. Because usually a device can get on a Wi-Fi just as well as the iPhone can. So yeah, one thing I was going to show though is if you don't have the mobile hotspot enabled with Verizon, when you get the contract, you're not going to have it show up in your system preferences. So I can't even show it off at all because I'm not paying for it. But there you have it. So far, I have no complaints about the Verizon iPhone. I personally do not use the phone and the internet at the same time, so that has not been a problem for me. And if I really need to, I can always just call the people back. Another thing to consider for me too is that I'm on a college campus almost all the time, so I 99% of the time have Wi-Fi available, so it's not that big of a deal. So there you have it. So what's the verdict when it comes to AT&T versus Verizon? Unfortunately, I can't give you an answer. It's something that you're going to have to research yourself, and you're going to have to come up with your own answer for which you like more and what fits your needs. So, to sum it up, they're very similar phones. Each has its pro, each has its con. The only reason that I got Verizon was because I already was on Verizon. If you already are on Verizon, I personally wouldn't recommend switching over to AT&T just to get an AT&T iPhone. But if some of the stuff that I said about AT&T sounds like it's better for you, then I mean, by all means, go ahead. Otherwise, I think you'll probably be fine with the Verizon one. So, thanks for watching, and guys, please check out themediastomp.com. Also, if you guys have any other questions about the Verizon iPhone, go ahead and ask me. If there's anything you don't know about it, if there's anything you want to know, I'm the guy to ask. I'll have this for probably 2 years, so that's what the contract is telling me. So yeah, expect more videos about Verizon iPhone in the future if you guys have questions for me. Otherwise, that about sums it up. Check out themediastomp.com. Thanks for watching.